everyone, welcome to the Movie Section Show. My name is Fariba, and today we're about to watch Secret Invasion Episode 3, which is really insane because after tonight's episode, we're going to actually be at the show's midway point, which, the show has just started, and yet we're already kind of halfway through the show. And yet, I will say for one thing, so far, this series has been pretty solid, especially when we were looking at in Marvel standards, because as we've seen in previous Marvel shows that we've all encountered, for the most part, they've been pretty alright. I think for She-Hulk's probably my least favorite, but of course, my favorite so far has been WandaVision. So far, Secret Invasion has been very promising. I think that each episode, or at least the last two episodes that we've had so far, they've been really well paced. It's a slow burn, but it makes sense given the genre that it is, kind of the premise of it all. The whole point of it is that it's supposed to be very focused on the espionage, political thriller, showing this deceitfulness and a lot of this back and forth between opposing groups and all that sort of stuff. And so far, this show has really, it has basically given us what we had expected the show to be about. It has really met its expectations so far. I'm just hoping that it continues on moving forward, because I think it's usually around this time of a show, so roughly around episodes 3 or 4, that we start to get the sense of this issue with pacing. At least that's what I've seen so far with both the Star Wars and the Marvel shows, where a lot of times if there are 6 episodes, we get to get a sense of this rushed feeling, or that, some of the pacing kind of goes a bit inconsistent. And hopefully, this will be one of the rare cases where we'll see the show managing to maintain its runtime, what it needs to do in terms of keeping the momentum it has so far since, the first episode. And hopefully then, I think that this is a show that I think maybe the best utilization to use a 6-episode format. And I hope that after today's episode that, unlike some of the other shows that we've seen so far that has, this format, that has this episode layout, that, it didn't really work out. I think maybe this might be the show that it was meant to be, a 6-episode series. Of course, from the last episode, we've learned a lot of new things. So for one thing, the whole pursuit that, these Skrulls have been dealing with, the fact that Talos had basically brought every surviving Skrull to Earth, is now becoming a major problem. That's probably what led to kind of this overpopulation. That might even be the case here, where the overpopulation and the desperation of their group wanting to kind of find a planet that will be suitable for them to live is now becoming the dilemma for them. And this is where we are dealing with Gravik and its more radical ideas. And not just that, right? As I said before in the last episode kind of showed a much more mature sort of atmosphere that I've never seen from the Marvel Cinematic Universe before, or at least going to the extent of that. It does feel like a far more mature, far more of a bit more of a tidier violence that I've seen before, that I've never seen before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's definitely a very refreshing take to see how the show is going so far. And not just that, but we've also got that one relation about Nick Fury's life, his personal life, that I think a lot of us would have never imagined or probably wouldn't have ever believed, and yet it happened in the last few minutes of last episode. So I wonder where that's going to take moving forward. That might even give us a much more of a personal feel of who Nick Fury is, instead of just the director that we knew who used to helm S.H.I.E.L.D. or the guy who founded the Avengers Initiative. We'll see a much more personal side to Nick Fury, who, is Nick Fury, right? The side that we never really seen before, because he's far more reserved and likes to keep things, in a business style, and then really just, rather than just having a much more of an intimate relationship with anyone outside of his work, right? So that'll be interesting to see going forward. I can't wait to see what they're going to do. As of this point, I think the biggest focus will be, can the show maintain its pacing? Can it be consistent? Will it keep up with its momentum? knowing that we are about to reach the halfway point of this show. So yeah, having said all of that, without further ado, let's get right down into the third episode of Secret Invasion. Oh, so we're now gonna find out what this machine is. Okay.
Execute a strike on a key United Nations target.
United Nations.
The heroes of Earth will react. The only way we can counter that, claim this planet as our home, is to become super ourselves. And we no longer just change faces. We change powers. We're going to be uniquely programmed weapons of mass destruction. All of us. Super squads. Humans will be at all-out war with each other within the week. While they're at each other's throats.
This is like one of those comics. Oh my god. Where we find out that half the Avengers are
in the extinction of the human race.
Looking for someone?
Oh, isn't that his squirrel wife?
What does she look like?
That depends on what day.
Because that, my friends, looks a hell of a lot like World War III.
How can you watch that poison?
Even a broken.
Good morning.
Wow. Nick with a normal knife.
Those eggs supposed to be soft or hard boiled?
Poached.
I forgot. Things cook differently up in space.
Oh, thank you.
Do I dare ask what calamity must have transpired to bring you home to me? It has been years.
I retired.
Retired?
Any plans for the downtime?
I never cared much for golf, so I'm thinking I may take up revenge.
Okay.
Every night I grieved for you.
Dang.
And just when I thought I had gotten past the heartbreak, you came back in the blip. And silly me, I thought we were going to undo all the pain together. Go back to the way we were, but no. You just up and vanished again. Only this time it was voluntary.
So he did snap. Okay.
If you're interested in who I became in your second absence, I became me. The me I was before you. What other choice was there when you kept disappearing as if you were never really here in the first place?
She's speaking her mind, y'all.
Don't ignore it because of me. Which whole thing is that?
Well, you know, the difference between statesmen and soldiers. You see, because one lot spends the war posing for pictures, while the other does all the killing and the dying. I mean, look at the fat, smug smile on his face. You ask me, Talos, choice between having my story told in ink and oil paint or having it written in blood. I choose blood all day long.
Yours and everyone else's, huh?
Yeah.
Brave.
That's a lot of sugar.
Well, you just get an empty cup.
I like a little bit of espresso with my sugar.
You'll be grateful that I haven't sent that back to you in a body bag yet.
Shit. Yeah.
They're at their most formidable when they're threatened by a common foe.
Have you forgotten how we fight?
You think I'm going to let you continue this war under the cover of anonymity? You're very much mistaken. I'm going to tell every army on Earth who it is that's attacking them. You'll lose the element of surprise. You and your rebels will be put down like the rabid dogs you are. Then you'll be the author. Name stays out of your mouth.
Oh shit.
You got it?
Ah. Oh well, okay. They regenerate. Figures.
You really gonna eat that plate of dog food?
I was, mate. Just lost my appetite.
Oh, that's the first thing.
No, I think it's a pretty safe bet you're here for that, right?
Look, I got a lead on a rebel scroll that's high up in the U.S. government. And he's in London right now.
And
Oh, okay, yeah,
what can
that
I
guy.
do for you? How can I help you, my friend?
I just told
I know that it's understood that you think that implies that I should just sort of leap up and take this opportunity to just help you like that. Those days are gone. So I'm going to need you to, use your words. Say
Say
the words.
please. Just say please.
say what words?
Help me, Talos. Because I'm useless without you.
Help me, Talos. Because I am useless without you.
He said the secret. He said the magic words.
Doesn't have this number.
What do you know about a British submarine called Neptune?
First, I want an apology.
I just gave away the only one of those I had today.
Well, you'll have to double down, because you rather rudely attached a nasty bug to my beloved hoot.
Tell me that's not the name of that owl clock.
No, not anymore. He has a new name now. Nicholas Fury. He has a rather
Aw.
dashing little eye patch now.
Nicholas
I'm
Fury.
serious, Sonia. I have it on good authority. Neptune is planning to launch on the UN delegation.
I don't get the whole dog thing.
What's to get? Dog's a man's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, come on, look at that. I mean, just name me one other interspecies relationship where it's acceptable to clean up the other guy's poop.
I've been cleaning up your poop for the last 30-something years.
So,
Oh dang.
oh, that's rich.
The truth's a mother dog.
Me and 19 of my people signed on as your invisible spy network. We fed you more dirt and intel than you could have uncovered on your own in a lifetime. So please, I mean, every time you were promoted inside S.H.I.E.L.D., we did that. Every terror attack you prevented, we did that. Every enemy you sabotaged and ally you leveraged with dirt no one else in the world had
And yet, how
access
did they
to.
miss
We
Hydra?
did that.
How did they
You're a
miss
smart
Hydra?
and capable guy, Fury. Nobody questions that. But you got
We're here.
that, Bob.
Yeah, Bob. You remember Bob, the guy that's gonna launch a nuclear attack?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize
No,
that.
that's because you were too busy riding the "we did that" wave. You got any more abuse you want to hurl my way? Or are you ready to go in here and take care of Bob?
So I just left you.
Yeah, I see.
Dang.
Daddy. I'll let him go. When you let my son go.
This is not a negotiation, Bob.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not a negotiation. Dang, that's dark.
He's the only one who knows the code word.
You got a code for us, Commodore?
You created this vacuum. All Gravik did is fill it.
I want to talk to CENTCOM. These are CENTCOM's orders. Either you obey, or you'll be removed.
Enough of this bull! I'm giving you 3 seconds to give me that code, or I'm gonna aim higher, or maybe lower.
Give me the gun.
1, give me the 2. I said, give me that gun! You got minutes to figure out that code. If we can't make your friend here tell us.
Daughter's loyalty. Or is she the spineless traitor feeding you information?
Dang. Wow.
Good evening, friends.
Operative Guy, what can we do?
Initiate go position.
Where are you off to?
Are you a leader of Skrulls? Or a worst enemy?
What? I don't believe that. What? There's no way. No. That's so soon.
St. James Church, 1 hour.
I need to speak to Graphic.
Yeah, well, you're talking to me.
Isn't that... Hold up. Doesn't that sound like Rhodey? That sounds like Rhodey. Hold up. Maybe... Oh. Okay. So, wow. That was the third episode of Secret Invasion, and there's a lot of things to dive into this episode, so let me just get right down to the big stuff we just got from the end of this episode, right? So the first one that I know a lot of people are just going to be having a WTF moment is Gaia, just because, like, it is played by Emilia Clarke, and I mean, as of this point, she is one of the three big characters, three main characters that, you know, we've been following so far. I mean, for a while, we figured that she is basically a double agent. Even though she is, you know, showing herself as someone who is supporting Gravik's cause, who happens to be one of Gravik's closest associates, we now know for a fact that she is actually just there to basically share intel to her father. And we get the sense that she is actually not a radical, but someone who is trying to stop basically this human genocide that's about to happen as a result of Gravik's ambition, his plans to take over Earth for Skrull. So the fact that you know, Gravik shot her and presumably killed her is definitely one that a lot of us are going to be questioning. I question whether or not that is true, if this is legitimate, or if there's going to be something that, you know, there might be some twists and turns involved, because that is big. Just to kill off, again, one of the big players in this show, Guy, I think, again, she would probably be the third most important character going into the show, and that too played by Emilia Clarke. And not just that, but I mean, just thinking about it, like, I feel like there were a lot of footage that we got of Gaia in the trailer. So I'm going to say that she is likely not dead. There must be some, I don't know how she'll be revived, because there's definitely going to be questions about that. I mean, for one thing, we know that they can regenerate. So I don't know if that's going to imply something. I have no idea, but I have questions about that for sure. I know that this is going to really devastate Thalos unless he knows of something, but as of this moment, for all we know, she is dead. But again, I'm going to keep my hopes up, and I'm just going to assume that, you know, something must happen for her to be, you know, for her to be back, because I just feel like, again, it just seems so soon to be killing off someone as big as Gaia right now in this show. Knowing the fact that I feel like I've seen far more footage of her later on in the show that I feel like are later on the show. And so I'm going to say that she is probably not 100% dead, or she's not ultimately dead. I think that something might happen in the next episode so that she might be back. Definitely a big, you know, I did not really think that was going to happen, of course, just because I feel like, again, I feel like there was a far more, footage that we see of her later on in this series, and the way that she was just talking to him, and he just like had no qualms. He just was like, nope, I don't even want to listen. I'm gonna say this about Gravik. Like, you have to give him credit as a villain. I feel like Gravik is someone who is very smart. I think this is one of the cases where we finally have a villain who isn't very, like, he is ambitious for one thing, but he isn't so like far-fetched about his ideas, his plans. He doesn't go too over the top. He is not, he tries to be a bit more subtle with his moves. I think that's something I have to really appreciate about him, because I feel like in the past, when it comes to villains, we've seen some that are pretty colorful, very energetic, very boisterous. But then in this case, he's someone who's a bit more subtle. But I think because of that subtleness, that he has really shown himself as, a threat that, tries to think about his moves. Like, I think just right from the beginning of this episode, we already knew that he was already suspecting her, that she was the mole, that she was the informant, that she was the one who was basically backstabbing them in some way or some form. And he was just, using his plans to really just catch her in the act. And that's what basically happened. He realized that she was the one who's been feeding off information to Thalos this whole time. For the example of this whole UN, submarine, plan that they had. And it was just mostly just a way to catch her in the act. So, again, you really have to applaud how, they are really kind of setting up these characters. The writing of the characters are very well done, especially the villain in this case. Again, like, he may not be the villain that is always on the limelight all the time, but anytime he is, the center of the attention, or when he does appear on screen, you can tell that he is really calculating his next move, what he needs to do. He isn't someone who is, going to get too distracted. Like, if he realizes that something is off, he's going to get right down to it. And he'll do so in a way that is very sharp, very, thought out. And this is a case of it. I think this is just a very good example of how he really does a great job of managing that. And I think you have to really applaud the way for him as a villain at this point, that he is someone who knows what he's doing. And I think that this is pretty refreshing to see from a villain. Yeah, again, he's not like very full blown like the ways we've seen with Thanos or the Green Goblin or Loki, even that matter, right? Loki was someone who was very, deceitful, very self-absorbed. He was very ambitious about his plans. But he also had some, good intentions, and he's a bit more of a tricky person to deal with, because we have seen what has transpired since, the Avengers. But this is a character that, he has a plan in mind, not because of his own deeds, but he's doing so in a way that he is what he thinks is the right thing to do to save his people, right? He is the leader. He's the one who's in command, and this is what he thinks is the way to go. And I feel like it's like, okay, but yeah, it's pretty radical in some cases, but it's just like, yeah, this is what he needs to do. And I think this is probably one of the most well-written villains as of this point. And you have to also give a lot of credit to the actor. I believe his name is Ben Adair Kingsley. He has been doing such a great job so far, just playing Gravik, to the extent that he has been so far. Like, you can just tell how, every time he's shown up on the screen, that you're expecting some sort of brilliance coming out of him in what he wants to achieve with his ambition. So again, I think so far this has once again just set up why Gravik is such a huge threat in this series, why this is again contributing to like the conflicting politics that we've been seeing so far amongst the Skrulls, how they're trying to deal with the whole situation, what they can do to keep their species survival intact, and doing so in a way that they can still coexist with humans. And even in Gravik's case, just basically abolishing them, basically killing them all off so that the Earth will just be for them, right? So, again, so far, like, Graphic has been a very well-written character so far. I have to applaud that. So far, given what the creators have given so far. So yeah, I mean, I even with that being the case, I still will say that Gaia may not be 100% dead. Again, I think there is a chance she'll be coming back in some form, some way. We'll see how that goes in the next episode. But yeah, that was just the first thing I was able to note. The next thing, of course, is Nick Fury's wife, or spouse, knowing that she has a gun. I mean, it was pretty clear that, you know, she seemed a bit suspicious, the way that she got that phone call. Even the fact that she kind of subtly hinted that, you know, ever since, not only did he perish during the snap, which now confirms that he did perish during the snap, and it wasn't just his scroll version, but even when he did come back and left again to do his space mission, whatever, right? That she was basically alone again, right? And the way that she was able to cope is to become herself again. And it seems really clear that she's now joined Gravik's side, even though it goes everything against what Nick is trying to do. And not just in the fact, but she is now basically in the opposing side to Nick Fury, right? As to what this plan could entail, I have no idea. Could it be some big character? I can't even say. I don't know who the target is, given that she has the gun. We'll probably know by the next episode who the target is, because I'm going to assume that, you know, because I feel like the way that they're going to play this out is if they want to start a war, they would have to basically assassinate like a very important figure, like a president or prime minister of some sort, or somebody who's very, very important. I don't know who it is yet. We'll see. I'm going to assume it might be like the US president, but who knows? We'll see. But that's definitely going to be the big question going into the next episode. Like, who is the target? Who are they going after? And what they're trying to do to instigate like a war, so that way they can achieve, again, what they're trying to do is to get humans to pit against each other, basically become their self-destruction, and allow, you know, their species to thrive as a result because of what's going on with the humans, right? That they're themselves are trying to trigger. So we'll see about that. Of course, I do have a question, like, who is contacting her? I feel like I heard Don Cheadle. I feel like I heard Don Cheadle as Rhodey speaking to her. So I know for a while there has been a theory going around that, you know, amongst, you know, because now here's the thing, this is going back to the comics, of course, where there is a series that becomes I believe it's literally called Scrolls. It's called Scroll Invasion. That a lot of the Avengers are not actually themselves, but are actually Scroll versions, right? I think definitely one that pops up for me, of course, is Spider-Woman. So Jessica Drew. Jessica Drew was not herself. She was actually a Scroll. I believe it was like Queen Veronque. That's the one I'm very familiar with. I know that there was far more to that. So, there's definitely been a lot of theories about whether or not they were specific Avengers who may or may not be themselves. Maybe they were Scroll versions this whole time. Don't know if they're going to actually go to the extent of that, but I do think that if they're going to tackle it, we might see it come soon. I feel like I heard Rhodey, so I don't know. Maybe that's Rhodey. I'm not sure. Maybe I might be just getting him confused with someone else. But I feel like there has been a theory going around that if there is one character who may actually turn out to be a Scroll, it's been Rhodey. So I would not be surprised if that theory turns out to be true. We'll see about that. I don't know. I feel like having heard that, like, I felt like I heard Rhodey, but maybe I could be wrong. I think that I might just, you know, just because of the whole theory that I'm just misconstruing everything. Maybe I'm just kind of like trying to fill in the gaps, and maybe that just kind of, you know, made me think that way. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, because we still have 3 more episodes, of course. But now I'm starting to think that this theory might seem pretty legit. We'll see. Again, I feel like having now seen it, there could be a possibility to it, but we'll see about it in the next 3 episodes. I think aside from that, of course, this has been a show that continues to be a slow burn, maintaining that. I will say though, this is not my favorite episode. I think that there was, again, as I said, one of the things I was a bit concerned going into this is that typically around this time of the show, we'll start to kind of sense how, the episodes lose a little bit of the momentum set up by the first episodes. And I feel like that's what I was getting at, that this was kind of where the pacing and the atmosphere, the aura of it all started to kind of shift a little bit, because especially in the scenes where we see Nick and Thalos interacting, I think that's where I started to sense like, oh, we're kind of losing a bit of what the sense of like the essence of this show has been so far. Like, we've been getting a bit more of this intense suspense in the first 2 episodes, and started to like getting the intensity of the whole situation that's been going on. And even though there's an episode where they are dealing with a very serious situation with like the submarine and the UN plane and all that sort of stuff, and that was the main mission, I just felt that even with that being the case, I think that the whole interaction between Thalos and Nick, like, you can get the sense that they're trying to be a bit more playful, like they're kind of relaxed a little bit, because they are trying to, I guess they're kind of having their own therapy session where they're trying to talk to each other, almost like a couples counseling in a sense, where they're trying to talk to each other, try to, express their feelings about, why one person hasn't been great to them or the other person needs to, all that sort of stuff, right? And that was the sense I got. I think that, I think that kind of dimmed the whole, atmosphere a little bit, just because I'm like, okay, we're in the middle of dealing with a very intense situation. Maybe we could have held this off for like a different thing. But I mean, it's not a big problem for me. I think that it was just something that I noticed that, the tensity of it all kind of doled out a little bit. And I think that's where I was just like, okay, this is what I was exactly addressing right before this episode, that this is something that's typically a common issue, and that's what I was sensing here. But still, I think this is a pretty good episode overall. I think that even with the whole conversation between Fury and Thalos, like, you get the sense of why this is very important to them, even with that conversation, understanding that, for both of them, they have their own goals, they have their own aim, they have something that they need to fight for. I think the one that really kind of caught my attention was just the fact that, Thalos was basically telling him that all your successes, everything that you've gotten, the titles and everything like that, him becoming director of S.H.I.E.L.D., none of that would have happened had it not been for the fact that, the Skrulls were basically kind of, helping him out this whole time. Like, basically all the credit should be technically given to the Skrulls, but they're the ones who did all the work for him, and he just took all the credit for it, right? So I can understand how that can be a bit bitter. How, just to see that you're doing all this work for someone who's taking all the credit and not get anything in return, right? I think that's and this is what the whole point of the show is, right? Nick Fury gave them a promise. They have not fulfilled it. And as a result of that, we're now dealing with Graphic, who's now going to extreme measures to get what his people want, and that is to have a far more secure location for their people, especially knowing what had happened to their planet originally. So, like, you can get the sense of it. Like, again, even Thalos is not that far off from what Ravik is feeling, right? Like, I mean, this is what was going on earlier in the episode with their meeting, right? Like, they're both, trying to aim for the same thing, trying to protect their people. But of course, their opinions are far, like, at least in the political aspect of it, it's very different, right? One is going to go through extreme measures, meaning killing off a whole population of a home planet just for themselves, while the other one wants to actually go into the extent of coexisting and trying to build that relationship between the Skrulls and the humans. And you can get that, that difference. You can feel the contrast between the two leaders, that, one wants to, has to use bad intentions, has to go through the extreme case to really just get what they want, while the other one wants to be a bit more in the middle ground. And that becomes very evident here, right? And this is, again, this circles back to where Nick Fury is, involved in all this, right? Because of the fact of their promise, his promise to them, having yet to fulfill that. And I think that having that conversation between him and Thalos is very crucial, just to understand how everyone is feeling in the situation. Because even though Thalos is helping him, right, it doesn't take away the fact that Fury has not, fulfilled his end of the deal. And that becomes very evident. That becomes very clear. That's a message that, even Thalos himself tries to get the point across to him. And we'll see how more of that goes. Like, again, I feel like this is an episode where we start to get a far more personal side of who Nick Fury is. I think this is just opening up that route a little bit more. Again, I think this is one of the cases, again, where we see that, even though Thalos and, Nick, they've had their, relationship where it's a far more on the business side, we can also see where they have a bit of that friendship that they're trying to maintain. And they're using that to be a bit more intimate about trying to express themselves. And I think that becomes very clear in that whole conversation that they have, where they try to, or at least Thalos is trying to open up to him and be like, hey, yo, this is what we've been doing. I've been in your side. I would have been in Gravik's side, but I'm in your side for a reason. And then yada, 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 right? So it's very interesting. Again, I feel like, again, the writing in this show, in terms of at least the dialogue, is pretty top notch. I think it's probably the most sophisticated that I've seen so far, anything that I've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And which makes sense, because it's a political thriller. You have to make things make sense in a more political setting, especially in a one that's a bit more mature. Again, in the whole scene where they infiltrate the house, where they have that Skrull who's like, I guess, I can't remember. It was like, I don't think it was a UN member, but somebody who's like part of the military, like, or the leader, whatever. They're trying to get access to that. A lot more violent stuff than I would typically see in Marvel stuff and Marvel projects in general. Again, like them shooting up, Skrulls in the heads. You can see blood everywhere. Even the case where, Thalos does shoot the guy, right? Bob or Robert, whatever, right? That was a pretty, explicit view to see. I mean, not super explicit where blood splatter everywhere, but still, like, to see that much of, blood, and I want to say gore, but just a lot of blood. That's like right straightforward. That's very capricious. Like, it's just like, wow, like, this is not something that I've ever really seen from anything from Marvel Studios. So again, I have to really credit how this show is not afraid to go a bit violent in its approach, be a bit more mature, a bit more graphic. So yeah, basically, like, being with all the the scenes that we've seen so far with like with the gunfights and all that sort of stuff, like, it's a bit more on the graphic side for sure. Again, leaving a lot of questions about whether or not if kids should be seeing this, but honestly, I don't think that's gonna, for me, I don't think it's too much, because again, it's not super gory or super violent, but I will say again, like, it's not something that I've really seen the extent of with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So again, we continue to see that trend so far in this series. Again, I think the dialogue in this show has been pretty top notch, as I said before. I think this is progressing pretty well. We've been seeing again how this show continues to, go forth and convey a lot of the political aspects to it. Again, going to the politics, talking about the fractions, their goals, their messages, how people are, affected in the matter, how they're trying to resolve it. The fact that we're seeing, espionage and double agents and all that sort of stuff. And again, this is a show that is really kind of maintaining what it makes it such a interesting vibe to it, Again, I feel like when we look at it in terms of Winter Soldier again sets up a lot of what we know about integrating the superhero genre with the political thriller, and this one's far more pure in the political thriller aspects, but doing this in a way that it still has far more of that superhero touch to it without losing what has made the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So again, I think this is a pretty solid episode. I mean, again, it's not my favorite, as I said before, because I felt like I got the sense that, a lot of the intensity kind of dipped a little bit because of some certain scenes that happened here and there. But even then, like, I mean, things have been setting up very well so far. Again, I cannot believe we're already halfway through the season, or series in this case. So I am very curious to see what's going to happen next. There's been some implication of one thing, of course, how apparently they're trying to get some powers, and maybe kind of hinted at the fact that, you know, they could be, you know, taking the faces of some, you know, some so-called heroes or Earth's biggest defenders. Again, I wonder what that means. Doesn't mean we're gonna see some big cameos coming in. I have no idea. But again, there's a lot of implications that are happening here and there. Lots of hints. Lots of things that I cannot wait to see. I cannot wait to pinpoint. We keep being teased about a lot of things, but also, again, the development of things have been pretty great so far. Again, I've already mentioned about Gaia, like what this could mean going forward. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid episode so far. I think, again, it continues to build up to what we need to see. I just hope that by the time we get to the next episode, it can pick up the momentum. Just again, I just felt like a little, with this one, it just kind of felt a little dull. Just, not just dull, but I just felt like, again, it kind of lost a little bit of that uniqueness, that magic that we've seen so far in the first 2 episodes, that, you know, that suspense of it. But hopefully in the next episode, it'll pick up again and set up basically the last 3 episodes. So that's all I have to say about Secret Invasion episode 3. I think I've pinpointed everything I had to say. Again, a pretty good episode. Some, you know, faults here and there. It's not the most flawless, but so far it's a very good development of what the show has been doing so far. So let me know what your thoughts are about episode 3 of Secret Invasion. What are your thoughts about it? How do you think about this in comparison to the first 2 episodes? What do you think so far about the development of what's been going on so far? We now learned about this crucial plan that Graphic has. Will it work out? Are we going to see Earth's mightiest heroes pop up at any point in this series? And if so, when do you think that might happen? If not, what are Gravik's other intentions? What do you think about Nick Fury's story so far? Seeing this personal side to him that we've never seen before. What does this mean going forward, especially in his relationship with Talos? We just saw the shocker with Gaia. Does this mean that she's officially dead? Or do you think she'll come back? Do you agree that this might not be the end of Gaia? That we might see her come back somehow in some form? What does this mean for Talos, considering that this is his daughter, the one that, you know, considering that he put her in this position? What could be the outcome for him? And let me know what your other thoughts about this show, especially if you have any theories. What do you think about the theory I mentioned earlier? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.